The archaeologist's discovery. The dust of Kepler 442b clung to everything, turning Dr. Natasha Volkov's dark hair a dull gray as she brushed it from her eyes. The abandoned colony had been dead for 3 centuries, its buildings crumbling into the rust-colored sand. Most archaeologists avoided these outer rim worlds, too dangerous, too empty, too forgotten. But Natasha wasn't most archaeologists. She knelt beside the entrance to what had once been a communications hub, her fingers tracing symbols on a corroded panel. Her heart quickened. These weren't just any symbols. They matched fragments she'd seen in restricted archives, fragments that mentioned the disappeared ones. "You're wasting your time," a voice called from behind. Natasha didn't turn. "Captain Reed, if you're here to complain about costs again, I'm not interested." James Reed hopped down from a nearby rubble pile, his worn jacket flapping in the thin wind. He was tall, with the kind of rugged features that came from years living between stars. His gray eyes held perpetual skepticism. "I'm here because we've been on this rock for 6 days. 6 days of nothing but you digging through ruins and muttering about myths. They're not myths." Natasha finally looked at him, her green eyes flashing with irritation and something else, an awareness of how close he stood. Humans existed. They built an empire across dozens of systems before they vanished like smoke. James crossed his arms. "Every culture has its ghost stories, Doc. The Chitauri have their void walkers. The Vexani pray to disappeared star gods. Humans are just another—" The ground trembled. Both froze. On a dead world, nothing should move. Natasha scrambled to her equipment scanner. "There's something beneath us. Something active." Her hands moved quickly across the holographic display. "James, help me clear this entrance." For once, he didn't argue. They worked side by side, hands occasionally brushing as they moved debris. Each accidental touch sent small jolts through Natasha, though she tried to ignore them. She'd hired James because his ship was discreet and he asked few questions, not because of the way her stomach fluttered when he smiled. 30 minutes later, they broke through. The chamber below glowed with soft blue light. At its center sat a crystalline sphere, perfectly preserved, humming with ancient energy. Natasha descended the ladder first, her breath catching. The walls were covered in text, human text, thousands of words describing coordinates, protocols, warnings. "Mother of stars," James whispered behind her. Even his cynicism couldn't survive this moment. Natasha approached the sphere with trembling hands. "It's a data core, military grade by the look of it." She pulled out her scanner. "James, if this contains what I think it does—" "Doc," his voice was sharp. "We have company." Above them, through the chamber opening, ships appeared in the sky. Sleek, angular vessels bearing the marks of the Chitauri Collective. At least a dozen of them. "They tracked your scans," James said, already moving toward the ladder. "We need to leave, now." But Natasha couldn't move. Her scanner had connected to the sphere, and data was flooding in. Coordinates, codes, and one message, repeating endlessly, "Remember, awaken, return, Natasha." James grabbed her arm and the contact sent electricity through both of them. Their eyes met, and for one breathless moment, the danger above didn't matter. Then the sphere pulsed. A signal burst outward, so powerful that both humans staggered. Above them, the Chitauri ships scattered, their sensors likely overloaded. But the signal didn't stop. It pierced through atmosphere, through space, racing toward the dark corners of the galaxy. "What did you do?" James asked, his hand still on her arm. Natasha stared at the sphere, her voice barely a whisper. I think I just woke them up. From somewhere in the depths of space, far beyond any known system, something stirred. Ancient engines hummed to life after centuries of silence. Thousands of them. In the hidden dark between stars, humanity opened its eyes, and in that chamber on a forgotten world, Natasha Volkov realized she'd just changed everything. She looked at James Reed, seeing the same understanding dawn in his expression. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The signal continued to pulse, a beacon in the darkness, calling the forgotten home. The age of legends was ending. The age of remembrance had begun. The awakening signal, the Chitauri ships descended like metallic insects, their hulls gleaming in Kepler 442b's dim sunlight. Inside the chamber, Natasha's hands flew across her portable terminal, desperately trying to download the sphere's data while James checked his sidearm. "How long?" he asked, his voice steady despite the situation. 2 minutes. Maybe 3. Natasha's fingers trembled as encryption keys scrolled past. "James, this data, it's coordinates to dozens of hidden installations. Supply depots, shipyards, all still active." A crackling voice filled the chamber through external speakers. "Humans below, surrender the artifact. The Chitauri Collective claims all pre-silence technology." James glanced at Natasha, and something unspoken passed between them. "That's not happening!" he called back, then muttered to Natasha, "Can you carry that thing?" She disconnected the sphere from its housing. It was surprisingly light, warm against her chest. "Got it." They climbed the ladder just as the first Chitauri warriors descended. The insectoid beings were all chitinous armor and clicking mandibles, their weapons raised. James fired twice, buying seconds. They ran through the ruins, ducking behind collapsed walls as energy blasts scorched the air. James's ship, the Wandering Star, sat 300 meters away. "It might as well have been 3,000. "We're not going to make it," Natasha panted. Then the sky split open. A ship emerged from nowhere, not a jump, but as if it had simply decided to exist. It was unlike anything Natasha had ever seen. Sleek black hull, no visible weapons, but radiating menace. It hung there for a heartbeat before unleashing a beam that carved through 2 Chitauri vessels like they were paper. "What in the frozen void?" James breathed. The remaining Chitauri ships scattered, fleeing into the atmosphere. The black ship didn't pursue. Instead, it descended, landing with impossible grace beside the Wandering Star. A hatch opened, revealing a ramp bathed in white light. A figure emerged. She was human, unmistakably heartbreakingly human, young, perhaps mid-20s, with short dark hair and eyes that seemed to hold centuries. She wore a form-fitting uniform of material that shifted colors with her movement. When she saw Natasha and James, her expression cracked, relief, joy, disbelief all at once. You're actually here," the woman whispered. "Real humans. Not stasis dreams," Natasha found her voice first. "Who are you?" "Mira Chen, engineer 3rd Fleet Colonial Defense." She shook her head as if waking. "God, what year is it? How long have we—" Her eyes fell on the sphere in Natasha's arms, and her face went pale. "You activated a recall beacon. You actually did it, 3rd Fleet?" James's tactical mind worked quickly. "That was disbanded 300 years ago. For you, maybe." Mira's smile was sad. "For me, it was last month. We went into deep stasis when Earth—" She stopped, emotion choking her words. "When everything ended. The plan was to wait, hidden, until it was safe. Until someone found us." She looked at Natasha with something like reverence. "You found us." Overhead, more ships began appearing. Not dozens, hundreds, all bearing the same sleek, predatory design. The hidden human fleet awakening. "We need to move," Mira said, urgency replacing wonder. "That beacon didn't just wake us. Every power in the galaxy will be converging on this system. The Zarn Dominion, the Karvish clans, they all have protocols for if humans ever returned." As if summoning them by name, new contacts appeared on James's wrist scanner. Massive vessels bristling with weapons. The Zarn Dominion had arrived. Admiral Kethra watched the tactical display from his flagship's bridge, his scaled fingers drumming against the command throne. The reptilian commander had spent 40 years in service, fought in a dozen wars, but he'd never seen anything like this. Human ships. Real human ships. All batteries, target the vessels protecting the planet, he commanded. "Capture any humans alive. Kill anyone who interferes." The Wandering Star lifted off with Mira's ship, she'd called it the Phoenix Dawn, as escort. They punched through atmosphere just as the Sarn fleet opened fire. The void lit up with weapons fire, but Mira's ship moved like nothing Natasha had ever witnessed, dancing between beams that should have vaporized it. "Impressive pilot," James muttered, watching from his cockpit. "Impressive ship," Natasha corrected, studying her scanner. "These readings are impossible." "The power output alone—" "Hold on," James interrupted, yanking the controls hard. A Sarn fighter squadron had broken through, pursuing them. Mira's voice came through the calm despite the chaos. "Jump coordinates incoming." "Follow my lead exactly. Jump? We're too deep in the gravity well." James started. "Trust me." Something in her voice made him obey. The coordinates loaded. Impossible coordinates, too close, too fast. But the Phoenix Dawn vanished into hyperspace as if the laws of physics were suggestions. James engaged his drive and reality twisted. They emerged in a nebula, clouds of cosmic gas surrounding them in veils of purple and gold. And waiting there, hidden in the mist, was a sight that stole all breath: ships. Thousands upon thousands of ships. A fleet that had slept for centuries, now stirring to life like a waking dragon. Stations the size of small moons. Weapons platforms that made Zarn dreadnoughts look like toys. The full might of humanity, preserved and waiting. Natasha pressed her hand against the viewport, tears streaming down her face. They survived. We survived. In the seat beside her, James reached over and took her hand. Their fingers intertwined and neither pulled away. Whatever was coming, whatever they'd unleashed, they would face it together. Mira guided them to a massive carrier at the fleet's heart. As they docked, Natasha caught her reflection in a monitor and barely recognized herself. Hours ago, she'd been an archaeologist chasing myths. Now she was part of something vast and terrible and wonderful. "Welcome home," Mira said as they disembarked. "Welcome to the Bastion. Welcome to humanity's second chance." But Natasha noticed how Mira's eyes lingered on James, bright with interest. And she felt an unfamiliar twist in her chest, jealousy, sharp and unexpected. The awakening had begun, but so had complications of an entirely different nature. Shadows and secrets, the Bastion's corridors hummed with renewed life. Crew members stumbled from stasis pods, disoriented and seeking answers. Natasha walked beside James, acutely aware of Mira on his other side. The engineer had been giving him a tour, explaining the ship's systems with enthusiasm that felt a bit too warm, too personal. "The neural interface system allows direct pilot-ship connection," Mira explained, her hand casually brushing James's arm. "I could show you sometime." "It's intense," Natasha bit her tongue. She had no claim on James. They'd shared one moment of hand-holding, nothing more. Yet watching Mira's obvious attraction sparked something primitive and fierce inside her. James seemed oblivious, his tactical mind focused on strategy. "How many humans are in stasis here?" 50,000 in this fleet alone, Mira answered. "Maybe 500,000 across all hidden installations." She stopped at a viewport. "We scattered when Earth fell. The Karvish clans and Zarn Dominion formed an alliance just to hunt us down. They feared what we might become." "And what's that?" Natasha asked, her voice sharper than intended. Mira's eyes met hers, understanding passing between them. Not friendship, but acknowledgement of the tension humming beneath the surface. "They're equals. Or they're conquerors." An alarm interrupted them. Red lights bathed the corridor as a voice echoed through the ship. "All personnel to stations. Unknown fleet approaching. Configuration matches Karvesh warband. Estimated time to engagement, 20 minutes. Mira was already running. "Stay in the operations center. Don't leave no matter what." But Natasha and James had never been good at following orders. They found themselves in a rarely used observation deck as the Karvish fleet emerged from hyperspace. The vessels were brutal, ugly things, all spikes and armor designed to intimidate. At their lead flew a massive dreadnought, scarred from countless battles. Warlord Drogon commanded that ship. He was huge even for his species. His gray skin covered in ritual scars, his forearms ending in claws that could rend metal. He'd built his reputation crushing rebellion worlds, and his hatred of humans was legendary. To him, they represented the only species that had ever made his people truly afraid. "All ships," his voice boomed across open channels. "The humans hide like vermin. We will burn them from the dark." The first shots rang out. Human ships moved with uncanny grace, their weapons precise and devastating. But the Karvesh had numbers, hundreds of vessels against a fleet still waking up. The battle turned savage quickly. In the observation deck, Natasha watched in horror as ships died on both sides. She'd started this. Her discovery, her activation of the beacon. All these deaths were her fault. "Hey." James's voice was soft. He turned her away from the viewport, his hands on her shoulders. "This isn't on you. This was always going to happen. The moment humans returned, war was inevitable. I'm a scientist, not a soldier. I study the past, I don't—" Her voice broke. James pulled her close, and this time there was nothing tentative about it. His arms wrapped around her, solid and warm. "You're the bravest person I know," he murmured into her hair. You went looking for truth when everyone else accepted lies. Natasha looked up at him, and the space between them vanished. Their first kiss was fierce, desperate, filled with the fear that it might also be their last. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. "I've wanted to do that since Kepler," James admitted. "Then why didn't you?" "Because you're brilliant and focused and completely out of my league." He smiled, that rare, genuine smile. "I'm just a cargo runner who got lucky. You're the man who stood by me when everyone else said I was chasing fantasies." Natasha touched his face. The door hissed open. Mira stood there, her expression unreadable. She'd clearly seen them. "We need you both. Commander Webb is awake, and he wants to meet the woman who found us." The moment shattered. Mira turned and walked away, her spine rigid. "She likes you," Natasha said quietly. "I'm not interested." James took her hand. "I'm exactly where I want to be." They followed Mira to the command center, a vast chamber filled with holographic displays. At its center stood a man in his 50s, salt and pepper hair, eyes sharp as laser cutters. Commander Marcus Webb had the bearing of someone who'd commanded fleets and ended civilizations. "Dr. Volkov." His voice carried authority. "You've done what we couldn't, brought us home. The question is, what home do we return to?" Before Natasha could answer, another figure stepped forward. Lieutenant Sophia Martinelli, tactical officer with dark eyes and a calculating gaze that immediately assessed Natasha and dismissed her. Her attention fixed on James. "Reed? James Reed?" Sophia's surprise was genuine. "I'll be damned. Still flying that piece of junk?" James stiffened. "Sophia, I didn't know you were in stasis." Last-minute assignment. 24 hours before the fall. She moved closer, familiarity in every gesture. "I thought about you, you know. About what might have been if—" "Sophia, now isn't the time," James interrupted. But Natasha saw the history there, written in body language and unfinished sentences. Whatever James and Sophia had shared, it went deep. The tactical display flared. "Commander!" an officer called. "Karvesh Dreadnought breaking formation. It's heading directly for us." Webb's jaw tightened. "Launch interceptors. All batteries target that ship, but Warlord Drogon's Dreadnought was a beast born for punishment. It absorbed hits that would have destroyed lesser vessels, its 4 massive engines pushing it forward like a battering ram. It wanted the Bastion, wanted to prove humans could bleed. "We need to evacuate this section," Sophia said, already moving to protocols. "No." Webb's voice was iron. "We hold. If we run now, we'll run forever." Through the viewport, the Dreadnought loomed larger, its weapons glowing hot. This was it, the moment humanity would stand or fall again. And in the command center, 4 people stood bound by duty, desire, and the weight of species returning from the dead. The battle for humanity's future had truly begun. The first stand, the Karvesh Dreadnought, filled the viewports, a mountain of armor and fury bearing down on the Bastion. Warlord Drogon's face appeared on every screen, his 4 arms spread wide in challenge. "Humans!" His voice was a roar. "You hid like cowards while the galaxy moved on. Now you will die like the vermin you are." Commander Webb stood unmoved. "All ships, defensive formation Omega-7. Lieutenant Martinelli, ready the main cannon." Sophia's fingers flew across her console. "Charging now." 60 seconds to full power." Natasha gripped the railing, her heart hammering. Beside her, James had drawn his sidearm, though against a dreadnought it was laughably inadequate. The gesture still comforted her. He would fight to the last breath. Mira worked a nearby station, routing power to shields. Her jaw was set, but Natasha caught her glancing at James, then away quickly. The tension between the 3 of them had only grown sharper. 30 seconds, Sophia called. Then to James, softer. "Remember the Titan Station defense? We used the same formation then." "That was a lifetime ago, Soph. Not for me." Sophia's eyes held old pain. "For me, you just walked away last week. No goodbye, no explanation. Not now." James's voice was steel. The dreadnought fired. Its main cannon lit the void, a beam of pure destruction racing toward them. Webb didn't flinch. "Brace for impact." The Bastion's shields flared brilliant blue, absorbing energy that could have vaporized a moon. The ship groaned, metal screaming, but held. "Barely. Shields at 40%, Mira reported, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. Return fire, Webb commanded. Sophia unleashed hell. The Bastion's main weapon, a spinal mount railgun that ran the length of the ship, fired a projectile at a fraction of light speed. It punched through the dreadnought's forward shields, through armor, through decks. The massive vessel shuddered, listing to one side, but it didn't die. Again, Webb ordered. Main cannon overheating, Sophia responded. 40 seconds to next shot, Drogon's furious bellow echoed through comms. You think one wound will stop me? I have slaughtered entire worlds! His transmission cut off as a new voice filled every channel. It was female, cold as vacuum, carrying absolute authority. Karvesh Warband. This is Empress Velshara of the Tyvan Empire. Stand down immediately. A third fleet emerged from hyperspace. These ships were elegant, deadly, curved hulls etched with glowing symbols. The Tyvan were an old race, powerful, and they maintained their dominance through calculated precision, not brute force. Empress Velshara herself appeared on screen. She was breathtaking and terrifying in equal measure, elongated features, skin like polished obsidian, eyes that burned with cold intelligence. Warlord Drogon, you violate the Accord of Thalas. This sector is neutral. The humans have no protection under— The humans, Velshara interrupted, her voice sharp enough to cut stars, are under my observation. You will withdraw, or I will remove you myself. Drogon's face twisted with rage, but he wasn't fool enough to fight the Tyvan Empire. His dreadnought limped back to his fleet, and moments later, they jumped away. Webb exhaled slowly. Hail the Empress. Velshara's hologram materialized in the command center. She studied the humans with open fascination. So the legends are true. I confess I had my doubts. Her gaze swept over them, lingering on Webb. Commander Marcus Webb, I've read the historical records. You orchestrated the defense of Proxima Station. 18,000 Tyvan warriors died there. I remember, Webb said quietly. I still see their faces. Something flickered in the Empress's expression. Respect, perhaps, or recognition of a fellow warrior. We will speak again, Commander, soon, but know this. The galaxy you left no longer exists. New powers have risen. Old alliances have fractured. If humanity wishes to reclaim its place, you will need to choose your battles carefully. And if we choose not to fight at all? Velshara's smile was sad. Then you are not the humans of legend, and you have already lost. Her hologram vanished. The command center erupted in activity. Damage reports, casualty counts, strategic assessments. Webb dismissed most of them with curt nods, then turned to Natasha. Walk with me. They left the chaos behind, Webb leading her to a small observation lounge. Through the viewport, repair crews swarmed over damaged sections of the hull. You started something today, Dr. Volkov, Webb said. Something that can't be stopped or undone. I know. Natasha's voice was small. I'm sorry. Don't be. Webb poured 2 glasses of amber liquid from a preserved bottle. Genuine earth whiskey, centuries old. We were living half-lives in stasis. Ghosts pretending we'd wake to a better world. He handed her a glass. You gave us purpose again. Gave us a chance to matter. At what cost? That remains to be seen. Webb sipped his drink. Tell me about Captain Reed. The shift caught Natasha off guard. Why? Because Sophia was asking the same question with considerably more hostility. Webb's eyes twinkled. Young love and ancient rivalries. The fleet's been awake 3 hours and already we have drama. Some things never change. Natasha felt heat rise to her cheeks. James and I were... It's new. I don't even know what it is yet. But you want to find out? Yes, Webb nodded. Then here's my advice. War's end, Doctor. Empires fall? But if you find someone who makes the universe feel less cold, you hold on to them. The galaxy doesn't give second chances often. Before Natasha could respond, James burst into the lounge, breathless. Sophia was right behind him, her expression murderous. We have a problem, James said. Mira detected a tracking device in the sphere. Something activated when we brought it aboard, which means Webb was already moving. Which means every major power in the galaxy now knows exactly where we are, Sophia finished. The Sarn Dominion, the Karvesh, the Collective, all of them. They're coming, and they're coming together. Webb's face hardened. Sound general quarters? All hands to battle stations. Launch all fighters. Power up every weapon we have. He looked at the humans gathered before him. Scientists, pilots, soldiers. The galaxy wants to know if we're still legends. Let's show them. Natasha found James's hand in the chaos. Their fingers intertwined, holding tight. Whatever happens, she started. James pulled her close, kissing her hard and fast. Whatever happens, we face it together. Sophia turned away, jaw clenched. Mira watched from the doorway, her expression unreadable. The alarms wailed. The fleet mobilized. And in the distance, space began to tear as dozens of alien fleets emerged from hyperspace. Humanity's first stand in 3 centuries had begun, and before it ended, everything would change. The age of hiding was over. The age of fire had arrived. Dawn of remembrance space itself seemed to burn. 7 alien fleets converged on the nebula, their combined might enough to sterilize worlds. The Zarn Dominion, Karvesh clans, Chitauri Collective, and 4 other powers, ancient rivals united by a single purpose, to eliminate humanity before it could rise again. On the Bastion's bridge, Commander Webb watched the tactical display with practiced calm. They think we're cornered, trapped in the nebula with nowhere to run. He smiled grimly. They don't realize we chose this ground. Natasha stood with James, both wearing emergency void suits. Sophia worked her station with fierce concentration, occasionally throwing hostile glances their way. Mira coordinated the fleet's movements, her genius making sense of chaos. All ships report ready, Mira announced. Commander, we're outnumbered 7-1. Then it's a fair fight. Webb opened fleet-wide comms. This is Commander Marcus Webb to all human forces. 3 centuries ago, we were driven into darkness. We were hunted, scattered, forced to hide like criminals for the crime of existing. His voice grew stronger. Today, we stop hiding. Today, we remind the galaxy who we are. The alien fleets opened fire first. Thousands of weapons unleashed simultaneously, turning the nebula into a hellstorm of energy and metal. But the humans had positioned themselves perfectly. The nebula's magnetic fields and dense gas clouds disrupted targeting systems, turning precision strikes into wild shots, and the human fleet knew these clouds intimately. Ships emerged from the mist like ghosts, firing and vanishing before return fire could connect. Fighters swarmed alien dreadnoughts, too small and fast to track. Torpedoes sailed through the nebula's currents, guided by pilots who'd studied every eddy and flow. Enemy formation breaking, Sophia reported, something like satisfaction in her voice. They're trying to regroup. Don't let them. Webb's command was ice cold. Press the advantage. In the observation deck where Natasha and James had retreated to avoid being underfoot, they watched humanity fight with a terrible beauty. Ships danced through the void, each movement purposeful and deadly. They're incredible, Natasha whispered. They're us. James squeezed her hand. Humans, stubborn, adaptable, refusing to die quietly. An explosion rocked the bastion. Alarms shrieked as atmosphere vented from a damaged section. James was moving before conscious thought, pulling Natasha toward the emergency seals. They made it through as blast doors slammed shut. In the sealed corridor, alone for the first time in hours, they looked at each other. Both were breathing hard, adrenaline singing through their veins. The battle still raged outside, but here, in this moment, there was only them. I thought we'd die on Kepler, Natasha said, her hands on his chest, or in hyperspace, or a dozen times since, but we're still here. We're still here, James agreed. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Natasha, I don't know what comes after this, if there even is an after, but I need you to know. She kissed him, silencing the words. This wasn't their first kiss, but it was different. Slower, deeper, filled with promise rather than desperation. His hands tangled in her hair. Her fingers gripped his shoulders. They broke apart only when breathing became necessary, foreheads pressed together. I love you, James said simply. I think I have since you made me dig through ruins in the rain. I love you too. Natasha laughed, the sound almost giddy. God help me, I fell for a cynical cargo runner who thinks archaeology is playing in dirt. Ancient dirt, James corrected with mock dignity. There's a difference. They kissed again, softer this time, a promise sealed. On the bridge, the battle reached its crescendo. Admiral Kethra of the Zarn Dominion watched his fleet crumble, disbelief warring with rage. "How? We have them outnumbered." "They're fighting like they have nothing to lose," his tactical officer responded. "And everything to prove." Warlord Drogon's dreadnought, damaged from the earlier engagement, took 3 torpedoes to its engines. The massive ship listed, lifeless. The Chitauri Collective's formation broke entirely, their ships scattering into hyperspace. One by one, the alien powers retreated. They'd come expecting an easy extermination of weakened survivors. Instead, they'd found warriors who'd spent centuries preparing for this exact moment. When the last enemy ship jumped away, an eerie silence fell over the nebula. Human ships hung in the void, battered but unbroken. They'd lost vessels, 37 ships, 3,000 souls, but they'd won something more valuable than victory. They'd won belief. Webb's voice came over all channels, thick with emotion. "All ships stand down from battle stations. Damage control teams, begin repairs." He paused. "And crew, well done. Earth would be proud."